Hey there, Lisa Collins. I wanted to jump in today and show you how I will put up my cucumbers and make pickles for the season. I have gotten, 20, 30, 40 pounds, so I've been busy and I jarred some in chunks like this, and today I'm going to do a lot of little ones whole, and I'm doing a dill pickle recipe. So what you're going to want to do to get prepared is I am going to be using the larger quart-sized jars, wide mouth, because then you can fit all your pickles in. And as I do that in a little while, I will explain the best way to pack them so we don't get any floating. You're going to want to have either fresh dill weed, and you can have the sprigs or the heads. I was not able to I didn't make the time to grow it this year. I have little ones going, but so I went ahead and got dill seed and pickling spice. So that is another good alternative. So I got a big thing of dill seed because what I'm going to use is probably about a tablespoon per quart. I got just some good old pickling spice, and I will use about a teaspoon per quart in each individual jar when I get ready to line them up and stuff them. Also, I picked up some pickle crisp granules, and I use about a quarter teaspoon per quart. I want my pickles to be crispy. So another way to do that is to, and the best way really, is to chill. Of course, wash all your cucumbers first and then chill them, and these have been going for over probably about 4 hours now. I put them in early this morning, and so there's probably about 8 pounds roughly. It's not an exact science. It's okay if you have a little more, a little less. You just, if you have leftover, you turn it into a cucumber salad, or you can heat up more jars and keep the rest chilling and do another whole batch. So there's a lot of options there. So you want to get prepared earlier in the morning, wash your cucumbers, have them being chilled. Then what you're going to need to go with the 8 pounds of cucumbers, roughly 8 pounds, is I like to do a 50-50 ratio on vinegar and water, because then you're going to prevent spoilage. I feel like 50-50 is just the way to go for the safest from spoilage. So for the 8 pounds, I'm making a brine. I'm doing 16 cups total. There is 8 cups of water, and I'm going ahead and adding 8 cups of vinegar. So what I'm going to do to make my brine is get that heating up now, and then I will add to that 2/3 cups of kosher sea salt or pickling salt. That's it. That's your brine. And then later on, when we add in the pickles, we'll do the individual dill seed, pickling spice. I do like to add garlic, so I have some bulbs here. I like to do about 3 or 4 cloves cut in half, so it disperses the essence of the garlic, and I put them in each individual jar as well. Another thing you want to do to prepare to process your jars is I have for a hot water bath here, I do not do the temperature gauge way, not necessary. It's just boiling for 15 minutes once your jars are filled and everything, of course, and sealed. So I have all my jars to get sterilized already in there, warm, just steeping and boiling, so that they are sterilized and ready to go. Once I heat up my brine, and that's hot, my jars are hot, I also have a pot here filled with my bands and lids. It's kind of hot. Oh, I don't have to take it out right now, but you do have your lids that you're going to need. And there's good tools to have. I'm going to show you those in a few minutes that are great to have when you're jarring and canning. Definitely want to have some tongs to pull out your lids and stuff when you're ready to go. So I think I covered everything to get you started, and we will come back in a minute with some more good stuff. Okay, so I'm going to add the 2/3 cup of the pickling salt to the vinegar and water 50-50 ratio, which is a total of 16 cups. And what I like about 2/3 is, it's not super salty. So, because we don't want pickles to be too salty, because the vinegar is going to have enough kick as it is. Okay, so we'll get that in there. And we'll give that a little bit of a mix. And certainly once it's come to a low boil, you want to lower it and let it steep for about 10 minutes tops. You don't want it evaporating too much, and then we're going to be ready to use it to start filling up our pickle jars and stuff. So we'll go over all of that in just a couple of minutes. I also wanted to show you real quick some of the other good tools to have. Little tongs. So like when I was trying to show you this before, and I'm going to want this when I'm doing my lining up my jars, is then you can pull out your lids, and you want your lids to be hot. And then you also are going to want this, because in your canner, while your jars are heating up, when we take them out, you're going to want one of these handy dandy canner filler thingies, whatever you want to call it, because when you're pouring in your brine, it doesn't spill everywhere, but you're going to stuff it with your pickles first. We'll talk about that. And finally, when you are taking, this is like a jar, help you get your jars in and out of the canner. So this is a great thing to have, because once you take, when you place them back, take them out, empty the water. We're going to stuff our jars. When we put them back together, we'll show you in a little bit. You're going to want to use that to submerge them back in, because they are hot. And you're going to definitely need them later when you pull them out. So you'll see all those steps as we go along. Okay, I want to show you a couple of ways that you can bust up your garlic for the pickles. There is the old-fashioned way, where you just take your hand and a little bit of grit, and you just crush it down like that. Okay, a little bit of elbow grease, all right? And then away stuff breaks apart. And then you can actually just go like this with your garlic and then snap it a little bit, and then your peels pretty much come right off. But when they're tricky in coming off, I will sometimes just take a little paring knife and just cut the top of it off, and then you can, and maybe the bottom a little bit too. Then you're able to just kind of score it and peel it back. I love when they just snap and you move them, and then the garlic comes right. The skins come right off the garlic. Then I have my granny, who lived to be 101. She's really cool. She said just take a glass jar, and then you have your bulb. Oop, I'm going to drop it this way. And then you don't want to slam it, but you just put pressure on it like that. And then, I guess you can hit it a little bit. She would sit there like this. And that's it. It just broke apart, nice and easy. Okay, so I am done cutting my garlic, and I'll keep it in a jar and on the side, so that way I have it, and I want to have that lined up with my dill seed and my crisp granules and my pickling spice and everything I'm going to need to when I start stuffing the jars, which I'm going to show you shortly. Here's a really cool, quick kitchen tip that I use. I just wash my hands, even though I just cut the last piece of garlic, because you're going to be a little sticky fingers after you cut your garlic. Lemon essential oil. Young Living is the best, just saying. So I just take a couple drops, and then I rub it on my fingertips. Get a little aromatherapy too while I'm at it, but it takes the stickiness away. And I smell like lemon, not garlic. Okay, so we are ready to fill up our jars and get them in the canner. I also wanted to share with you this apron that I'm wearing today that I decided to wear. And it is an apron from my great-grandmother. Her name was Mary, and she was from Poland. And, of course, she moved here when she was about 15, back in, like, 1913. I was blessed to get some of these for my mom, and I get to wear them while I cook. So it's pretty cool. Okay, so we are going to start stuffing our pickles. And this came in handy because I was able to pull it out of the pot. And you want to dump out your water, have your hot jar, and we're going to go ahead and start stuffing in the pickles. Okay, I should say cucumbers. They're not pickles yet. So the idea here is to kind of get them like pickup sticks, crisscross in every way. You want to get them nice and tight and secure. And that way it will prevent any floating that may occur later on after you process them. Now, if they float a little bit, it is okay. They just say that as long as your jars seal, which is one of the most important things, along with your 50-50 ratio vinegar and water, you may just have to swish the brine around a little bit to get even coverage. And you can always chuck the top 1 or 2 pickles out if you're not happy with the fact that they were floating out of the brine. So just get them down there as tight as you can. Filling in every space you can. It's like putting together a puzzle is the best thing you can do. So We're having a pickle party here, the more the merrier. All right. Now, before it's completely full, I want to go ahead and add my tablespoon of the dill seed. Or if you're going to do the fresh dill weed, you would add that now, a couple of heads. I think probably was sprigs, 6, 7 sprigs per jar. A teaspoon of the pickling spice. And even though I had made the cucumbers stay in the refrigerator for a few hours to stay nice and chilled, I like to make sure they're going to be extra crispy. So I also add in about a 1/4 teaspoon of the pickle crisp granules. And then the garlic. A couple of cloves cut in half, as I had said earlier, which helps to release the essence of the garlic. So it'll be nice flavor infused into the pickles. All right. I should say into the cucumbers, and then they become pickles. All right, so we're almost done. Got a few more in there. And it's nice to have all little sizes. So I try to go out into the garden every day to pick it so I can get nice little ones. They're almost like the size of a gherkin. But about a day and a half or so, then you can get some of these other sizes, which are nice size for having a dill pickle. And if you don't really check well under your leaves, you forget about a cucumber, and then you wind up with something like this. So you can either use it to play baseball, or I think I'm going to cut it open and see if I can get some seeds out of it. Let's see, a few more. Get them in there. All right, and crisscrossing helps because then that'll also prevent them rising, rather than just doing them all in the same direction. All right, I think that's looking pretty good. I could have did a little bit better at the bottom, I think, but we'll see how this goes. So I gotta find one more little one. So it does help to have different sizes because then you can kind of work it out like a puzzle. Okay. Now we're gonna add the brine, and this is where this comes in handy so you don't overspill. I might have to sit it on the pickles actually. You're going to want to leave about a 1/2 inch headspace for, I don't know, expansion when it's processing in the water bath, I guess. That's just what they say to do, and that's what I've always done. So you go ahead and pour in your brine. Try to avoid hanging out over it because that vinegar is so strong. And just keep on filling it up. Now, if you should run short on brine, which can happen, you know, because I said it's not an exact science, it really only takes about 10 minutes to whip up another quick batch of your 50-50 ratio of how much more brine you think you'll need. And then you just have to adjust your salt, of course. From the original recipe was the 2/3 cup with the 16 cups, 50-50 water and vinegar. All right, so we're almost there. I'm going to take this off now because I want to watch closely as I cover the pickles and still leave that 1/2 inch. Here we go. Okay, I got a couple jars done, but I just wanted to add in one other little tip of what I like to do is, so if there's any air bubbles, the best that I can, when I do sauce, which I hopefully can get to some of that this year, see how my tomatoes do, I take a butter knife and stick it down the side. And then just kind of run it along the edges on the inside, and it kind of helps the air bubbles to go to the surface, and that helps with any separation or floating or anything like that. With these, it's tricky because you can wind up stabbing your pickles and damaging them. So what I do is I just kind of grab the jar and give it a couple of taps, keeping it level somewhat because, you know, you don't want to spill the brine because it's already only like 1/2 inch from the top. But I give it a couple of taps, and a lot of times you'll see a few air bubbles kind of just go bloop, bloop, and that's a good thing. So that'll help keep them from floating. I also wanted to show you how I was doing a lot of crisscrossing on my pickles, and that sometimes is challenging because of the different sizes and shapes of the pickles. Cucumbers, not pickles yet, but this one I did some straight across the bottom, which I thought was pretty cool, and then a bunch just straight up and down around the whole thing, including in the middle. So I was able to pack a lot in there. So just have fun with it and get creative. You can keep messing around with them until you get them in good, and at least that way you know there'll be as many as you can get and prevent that floating that we talked about. All right, now what you want to do is you want to make sure your top of your rim is dried. Okay. And again, having the right tools for the job is helpful. So I use my tongs to get out a lid and a ring. So I have gold ones in here, silver ones, but it doesn't really matter. There was a time when I was like, it's got to be perfect and it's got to match. No, it just has to seal. Okay, here we go. So I just shake off the excess. I don't dry it because it's still nice and hot. I place it on top like that. And then I put my ring and I make sure it's nice and even and turn it until it's about hand tight. Okay? And then I'll pick it back up. The jar's starting to cool enough that you can handle it, but it's safer to do it this way. And into the water bath she goes. And then that's it. So I will repeat that. I have 7 jars altogether that fit in my canner. And then I will cover it with the lid and I will put on a timer for 15 minutes. And when I do shut it off, I don't move it off the burner and I do not take the lid off right away, because if you do, the pressure of the cold air and the hitting the hot, it could cause your jars to crack. So it's a good idea to just, maybe crack it a little, wait about 5 minutes or so, then a little more, and then after about 10 minutes, I slowly take the lid off. They still sit in the bath for maybe another 5 or 10 minutes after that, and then I'll take them out. So maybe we'll do one more step and I'll show you the finished product in just a little while. Okay, so I'm on my last jar, and after picking and choosing some of the pickles or cucumbers that I wanted to fit in the jars, I wound up with more of the larger ones left. I tried to do a variety along the way, so it's going to be hard to fit all those larger ones in your last jar. So what you can do is you could just cut them up in a couple of big hunks or whatever sizes you want. That'd be fine. And then there was one more piece that didn't fit in, so I get to enjoy. Okay, so they are in the water bath, and I'm going to put the timer on for 15 minutes. In fact, I'm going to do that right now because I did just start it, and it'll probably go a few minutes longer. By the time I shut it off, it still boils like wow. So but you want to shut it off after 15 minutes because it's going to continue to process. But 15 minutes is a good rule of thumb for water bath on a lot of things. I did wind up, I guess I should shut my brine off now and my lid thing. Okay, so I still have probably enough brine for 1 more quart. So what I'm going to do is not waste it, and I've actually done this before. Man, that vinegar is strong. Is I'm going to let the brine cool a little bit, and I'm going to pour it into another quart-sized jar. Of course, labeled it pickle brine because it is pickle brine, not cucumber brine. And then I'm going to put it in the refrigerator because I know I'm going to probably process some more cucumbers into pickles, probably in a week or a few days as soon as I get another batch up. And then when I go to make my new batch, I'll just take that from the refrigerator, I'll put it in the refrigerator into the pot, add my new batch of ratio of my water and vinegar, and just add it right to it. It's all good, so it doesn't go to waste. Okay, so I think that a lot of people say that. Okay, so I don't know why we start sentences that way these days, but for whatever reason we do. My cucumbers are ready to come out of the water bath. So this is definitely where this tool comes in handy. So we'll pull out the first one carefully, very hot, make sure you have a good grip on it. And here it comes. Okay, this one's floating just a little bit. I'm gonna put it aside. Now, what's gonna be music to your ears is you wanna start hearing popping, click, pop, pop. Sometimes they start right away. That's the lid sealing. And then that's a good thing. Okay, here's another one. Here it goes. All right, down. All right, here we go. Here's another one. Okay, I got a little bit of floating, but I think when they cool, they settle just a little bit too, so they won't stay like that. And if they do, it's okay. I've already been down that road. Very, very tricky to get them to not float. All right. This one came out pretty good. This one, very good. I like that one. All right, so I've got a few more, but you don't need to see me take all the rest of them out. So there they will remain and to cool for overnight probably before I move them, or tonight before I go to bed. And then I've heard somewhere that maybe wait about 10 to 12 days before you actually crack your first jar. I guess give them time to cure a little bit and the vinegar and all the goodness to get into the cucumber. And then it's now a pickle. So anyway, thanks for joining me, and I hope everybody stays happy and healthy.
And that's a wrap.